Can we spend 1 minute on Snow White and how it totally imploded at the box office this weekend? It was so delicious. The thing they spent 170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under 50 million, of any of these live action Disney remakes that they've ever had. Even the one that was their worst, Dumbo, did better than this has done.
No one expected Snow White, one of Disney's most iconic stories, to turn into a cinematic lightning rod. Yet here we are, watching a remake that some fans describe as a puzzling fever dream. The buzz is so intense that whispers suggest Disney might be pulling related merchandise from shelves just to stem the fallout. Critics are stunned, fans are furious, and the main star, Rachel Zegler, has ignited debate after debate with her outspoken interviews. This situation goes far beyond a single casting decision or a few script tweaks. It's a perfect storm. A once-beloved fairy tale drastically reimagined, a production plagued by ballooning costs, and a marketing campaign that was reportedly scaled back at the last minute. Everywhere you look, social media, review sites, even mainstream news outlets, the consensus is that Snow White 2025 has become Disney's newest cautionary tale. The real question is, how did a story so familiar and adored become so divisive? Some point to corporate missteps and an obsession with modernizing a classic. Others blame negative word of mouth, fueled by controversial interviews and glimpses of bizarre reshoots. Or maybe, as skeptics argue, the film alienated core fans by stripping away the romance and dwarfs that once defined it. Strap in, because we're about to explore every angle of this unfolding drama, from rumors that store shelves will soon be stripped of Snow White dolls, to the jaw-dropping box office numbers that left Disney reeling. And at the center of it all stands Rachel Zegler, the star who insisted this new version would break boundaries, only to face a torrent of backlash few could have predicted. The heart of any Disney blockbuster isn't just the film itself, it's the massive wave of merchandise that usually accompanies the release. From plastic figurines to elaborate collector's editions, these products often bring in millions of dollars and keep the hype train rolling long after the movie leaves theaters. But in the case of Snow White 2025, rumors suggest Disney is shrinking that retail footprint at a dizzying rate. Early sightings on social media hinted that Snow White-themed items were either vanishing or had never been fully stocked. Parents reported strolling down aisles at local stores and finding minimal signage or merchandise tied to the new film. Some posted photos of empty racks where they expected to see bright, newly branded dresses, dolls, and playsets. Naturally, this triggered speculation. Is Disney outright pulling the plug on Snow White products? Industry insiders are whispering that the studio wants to cut its losses. Merchandise lines can be costly, and producing more items for a film that might be underperforming could feel like pouring water into a sinking ship. While Disney has not made an official announcement confirming any discontinuation, the sudden drop-off in product sightings is enough to make fans suspect a stealth retreat. But why does this matter so much? For Disney, consumer products are a backbone of the brand. A robust merchandise launch not only boosts revenue, but also cements the film's presence in the minds of children and collectors alike. When that rollout fizzles, it sends a grim message. The film either failed to resonate or lost Disney's confidence along the way. Still, this is only part of the story. The merchandise mystery is a symptom, a clue that something bigger went wrong. To see the full picture, we need to venture into the box office meltdown that followed the film's debut. Before Snow White 2025 ever hit theaters, excitement ran high for Disney's latest attempt at retelling a cherished animated classic. Fans of live-action reimaginings had flocked to theaters in the past, eager to see how the new adaptation would handle beloved elements like the dwarfs, the iconic songs, and the prince's rescue. Yet once box office numbers started rolling in, the reality landed with a thud. Many screenings were practically deserted, and negative word of mouth spread like wildfire. Insiders reveal that the production budget soared past $250 million, not including the tens of millions spent on marketing, an investment that dwarfs many mid-tier films. To recoup such a steep cost, the remake needed a colossal turnout over multiple weekends. Instead, opening weekend figures were shockingly low. Critics chalked it up to the film's disjointed storytelling, chaotic editing, and an overall sense that Snow White 2025 had strayed too far from the whimsical essence people once adored.
Alex, what has been the reaction to Disney's latest expensive own goal?
Well, the reaction has been absolutely horrible. It is the worst box office from a Disney live action remake that they've ever.
As the weeks rolled on, what little momentum the film had seemed to fizzle under waves of scathing reviews. Online reviewers blasted everything from the script's tone to the questionable visual effects. Even fans who enjoy progressive twists on classic fairy tales found themselves scratching their heads, wondering if Snow White had been reinvented purely for the sake of reinvention. The bigger question is why Disney pushed so hard for such a radical rework. Did they assume the brand recognition alone would guarantee success, no matter how different the final product was? Whatever the logic, the financial results have raised eyebrows across Hollywood. Traditional Disney enthusiasts have begun questioning whether the studio has lost its golden touch, at least in the realm of these lavish live-action adaptations.
There are empty theaters all around the country. We are now at a 1 out of 10 on IMDb for the new Snow White.
The storm of poor box office performance would be remarkable on its own, but the real spark for the outrage came from the face of the movie herself, Rachel Zegler. No one anticipated how much Rachel Zegler's remarks would shape the public narrative around Snow White 2025. After a celebrated performance in a previous film, she became Disney's leading lady, a dream opportunity for any rising star. But her interviews painted a picture of someone convinced she was pioneering a new, enlightened version of Snow White. She openly criticized the original fairy tale's love story as outdated.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's one of those things.
She championed a vision where the iconic princess didn't need to be rescued by anyone.
I'm a narcissist.
At first glance, her determination to portray a modern, independent Snow White seemed admirable to some. But trouble brewed when Zegler doubled down, labeling critics of the remake as resistant to progress. Social media erupted with clips of her describing the animated film's prince character as a stalker and dismissing the romance altogether. Though that perspective resonates with a segment of modern viewers, a sizable portion of traditional Disney fans felt not just alienated but outright attacked. Why fix what isn't broken? Asked some outraged fans, who argued that you can promote a strong heroine without dismantling the classic romance that made Snow White a household name. Zegler's stance, they said, came off as arrogant and dismissive of the film's original charm.
Who hates when I win? The winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
critics claim she inadvertently turned a wide audience against her, a misstep that overshadowed the movie's potential merits. Before the film even opened, boycott Snow White hashtags began circulating online. Disgruntled Disney loyalists called Zegler ungrateful, pointing out how many aspiring actors never land such a prominent role. Her off-the-cuff comments about pay, reshoot schedules, and the right to demand changes on set only inflamed the conversation further.
Rachel Zegler has been humbled. The lead actress in Disney's Snow White remake has been brought right back down to earth after making some very tone-deaf comments that haven't translated well amid the horror opening weekend of the movie.
I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess. I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
For every one of the 18 hours I am in the Snow White dress, I expect to get paid. If it's 18 hours, I want 18 hours of pay. I'm sure she got underpaid as a Disney lead actress.
Suddenly, it wasn't just about the movie's plot. It became about her personality, her perceived entitlement, and the question of whether she was biting the hand that fed her. All of this created a perfect storm.
Ma'am, it is not like you are Tom Cruise risking your life with every film doing these stunts. It is not like you are Stallone doing Rambo. It's not like you are Jim Caviezel on The Passion of Christ and had your shoulder dislocated and lightning strike you and almost die.
Negative pre-release buzz, a star seemingly at odds with longtime fans, and a product that was quickly earning a reputation as the film that lost its fairy tale soul. But if Rachel Zegler's commentary stirred the pot, the actual story changes and the controversies they unleashed tipped it over. Disney, like any entertainment giant, has been accused before of leaning too heavily on modern messaging. However, with Snow White 2025, critics say the studio went further than ever. In the original 1937 animated masterpiece, the prince's role and the dwarfs' companionship were central to Snow White's journey. This new version reportedly strips away the prince's significance and recasts the dwarfs in a way that left many fans scratching their heads. Some applaud the updated narrative, suggesting it aligns better with contemporary ideals. Why should Snow White be defined by a romance or overshadowed by 7 male characters? Others feel the beloved story has been gutted of its heart. The dwarfs, they argue, aren't simply sidekicks. They symbolize friendship, loyalty, and the warmth of community. Replacing them or drastically altering their presence struck many as a disrespectful break from the very magic that made the tale endure for generations. This debate got tagged as woke versus nostalgia, with each side lobbing critiques at the other.
The reason we had Rachel Zegler on the docket is she's an asshole. So she came out and took a large dump on half of the country, everyone who voted for Trump. So I attacked her, and then she came out and she said, I apologize. Like I went too far, but it wasn't sincere.
Detractors claimed Disney was more focused on activism than storytelling, while supporters fired back that the world has moved on from outdated tropes. The problem, as many neutral observers point out, is that Snow White 2025 apparently fails to weave these modern updates into a coherent, engaging plot.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan.
Instead, we get incomplete arcs and jarringly placed sequences that disrupt the enchantment. In a perfect scenario, studios can refresh old fairy tales, keep the essence intact, and still make new points about empowerment. Films like certain Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast adaptations have tinkered with gender roles or thematic messages without erasing what audiences found charming in the first place. Snow White 2025, critics argue, lands like a sledgehammer, forcing progressive themes in ways that feel contrived or even cynical. By this stage, many viewers wondered, how could a story beloved for nearly a century unravel so completely? The answer may lie behind the scenes, in the tumultuous production schedule and endless reshoots that turned the film's final cut into a patchwork of disjointed scenes. Leaked reports suggest Snow White 2025 underwent not 1, not 2, but 3 major rounds of reshoots. Each wave was reportedly meant to fix nagging script issues or smooth out awkward sequences. Instead, some involved say these changes created even more chaos. Imagine trying to piece together a puzzle when the image on the box keeps changing. No one is quite sure what the final picture should look like. Insiders claim major plot points were introduced and then scrapped, while visual effects teams scrambled to keep up with the latest directives. Even the new dwarfs, or dwarfless approach, depending on the iteration, appeared to shift back and forth. By the time the film finished principal photography, well over budget, mind you, Disney apparently realized it had a disjointed narrative on its hands. But with marketing deadlines fast approaching, they had no choice but to forge ahead. Fans who watched the final product describe abrupt transitions and jarring tonal shifts. One moment, characters are engaged in a serious confrontation. The next, they're singing a random tune in matching white outfits. Scenes that might have been powerful in isolation end up feeling forced or out of place. Longtime Disney aficionados compared unfavorably to the studio's more polished live-action attempts, saying it lacks the seamless quality the brand is known for. By the time the dust settled, it was too late to unify the footage into a coherent story. Even if test audiences gave lukewarm feedback, the production had hemorrhaged so much money that scrapping the release entirely was never an option. So, the film staggered into theaters, supported by a lukewarm marketing campaign. What little hype it generated got overshadowed by negativity swirling around the star and speculation about the dwarf's replacement. Yet this dwarf's controversy was more than just a footnote. For many, it was the final straw. From the moment Disney announced it would revisit Snow White, fans wondered how the 7 dwarfs would be portrayed. In the age of heightened awareness about representation, would the studio respectfully cast actors with dwarfism, or perhaps tweak the concept entirely? The decision to either minimize or replace these characters with CGI magical creatures caused a firestorm. Critics of the move insist it robbed the film of one of its most essential elements. The dwarfs weren't mere set dressing. They played key roles in Snow White's journey. In many ways, they symbolized her found family, each with unique quirks and personalities that made the original story sparkle. By sidestepping that dynamic, the remake risked alienating fans who grew up cherishing those distinct dwarfs. On top of that, a new controversy arose when Disney tried to balance progressive values with a desire not to offend. Some fans felt the studio was stuck between 2 bad choices: hiring little-person actors and risking caricature, or using CGI stand-ins and effectively removing job opportunities. The final approach, an odd blend that neither fully embraced nor fully replaced the dwarfs, only fueled accusations that Disney was pandering to certain audiences while fumbling the heart of the fairy tale. This tricky situation exacerbated the sense that the film was losing its sense of identity. By trying to please everyone, they pleased hardly anyone. Nostalgic viewers missed the dwarfs, advocates for better dwarf representation felt snubbed, and the general public was left scratching their heads, unsure why the iconic 7 sidekicks were so radically changed.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them.
Just when it seemed the film couldn't get more complicated, Disney's top leadership stepped in with damage control efforts. Yet even those moves couldn't quell growing investor discontent and the avalanche of fan grievances. When the negativity around Snow White 2025 became impossible to ignore, eyes turned to Bob Iger, Disney's top executive, for an explanation or at least some acknowledgement. In a few public statements, Iger seemed to downplay the significance of the swirling controversies, brushing off negative coverage as the grumbling of overly harsh critics. He even implied Disney's main goal was to entertain, not push particular messages, though many believed that statement came far too late. Internal reports suggest that once the dismal box office projections became clear, Disney scaled back its promotional campaign to minimize further losses. Why throw more marketing money at a film that critics and fans were already positioning as a flop? It was a classic business move, but also a tacit admission that the studio had lost confidence in one of its marquee releases. On Wall Street, some investors grew jittery, citing Snow White 2025 as the latest example of Disney's struggle to juggle big-budget live-action remakes with public expectations. Shareholders feared the brand could be tarnished by repeated misfires if corporate oversight didn't tighten up. The blame game started swirling behind closed doors. Did creative teams overreach? Did marketing drop the ball? Or was the star's outspoken persona the true catalyst for the film's downfall?
She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and mainly because of her, and because nobody wanted to support her.
Regardless of who is at fault, the financial toll speaks volumes. With rumors of a final budget well over $250 million, Snow White 2025 needs an astronomical box office haul just to break even. But with each passing day, negative reviews and social media backlash choke off any chance for a box office rebound. Analysts predict the movie could end up in the red by hundreds of millions. A stark reminder that even Disney can't rely on brand nostalgia when the execution feels off-key. What does this mean for the future of Disney's beloved classics? Some say the studio must drastically rethink how it modernizes iconic stories. Others warn that no matter what new direction Disney tries, the damage from this fiasco could linger, shaping everything from the next live-action adaptation to broader corporate strategies. The ripple effects of Snow White 2025 extend beyond just this single production. For years, Disney's formula of revamping classic animated hits into live-action spectacles seemed like a surefire strategy. Titles like The Jungle Book or Beauty and the Beast brought in massive revenue, proving that audiences would flock to theaters for a fresh spin on old favorites. This time, however, the formula buckled under the weight of messy storytelling, off-putting publicity, and a leading star who inadvertently sparked public animosity. Insiders say the fiasco has triggered serious introspection at Disney. Plans for other remakes may face stricter scrutiny, especially if they threaten to deviate too aggressively from the source material. fans are also on high alert, becoming more vocal whenever rumors surface about big creative shifts to an upcoming adaptation. The era of rubber stamping any big-budget remake on the assumption of guaranteed success might be ending. But can Snow White be salvaged? Some supporters hope a future director's cut or streaming release might restore scrapped scenes and resolve glaring plot holes. Others doubt any version could fix the film's structural flaws, especially now that the negative reputation is so entrenched. Public perception is notoriously difficult to shift once an avalanche of bad buzz gains momentum. On social platforms, debates rage on. Some viewers who actually enjoyed the film's modern messages accuse critics of resisting social progress. Opponents counter that a classic's identity shouldn't be sacrificed on the altar of forced wokeness. In truth, both sides agree on at least one point: the final product lacked the cohesive magic that makes Disney's best work enchanting. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler remains a lightning rod. She continues to advocate for progressive interpretations of fairy tales, insisting that some audiences simply aren't ready for change. Yet her stance has turned off many who might otherwise have embraced an updated Snow White, had it been executed more elegantly. Whether her candid remarks will hamper her future career or open doors with other forward-thinking creators remains an open question. For Disney, the stakes are more immediate and arguably more severe. The brand's entire approach to legacy franchises is on the line. Already, rumors abound of reorganization within the creative teams and demands for more stringent oversight on any production that dares to rewrite treasured stories. Like it or not, Snow White 2025 could stand as a cautionary tale. When you tamper with something beloved by generations, you'd better do it right, or risk losing both money and goodwill in a spectacular fashion. Snow White 2025 was supposed to be a triumph, a testament to Disney's ability to keep reinventing its heritage. Instead, it's on track to become one of the studio's most notorious disappointments. From talk of pulling merchandise off store shelves to uncomfortably empty theaters, the signs point to a film that misjudged its audience. Star power, massive budgets, and the Disney logo itself weren't enough to win viewers over once negative chatter took hold. What's most striking isn't just that the film flopped financially, it's the rift it exposed among fans. The push and pull between tradition and modernity is on full display here. Perhaps a truly balanced reimagining, one that respects the source while updating it for new generations, could have satisfied everyone. But by the time the dust settled, critics say Snow White 2025 felt less like a bold leap forward and more like an unfinished patchwork of ideas that never formed a cohesive whole. Now, the conversation turns to Disney's next moves. Will the studio double down on big remakes and trust that a more careful hand can avoid similar pitfalls? Or will this fiasco prompt a broader reevaluation of how and whether to modernize timeless tales? As for Rachel Zegler, her trajectory remains uncertain. She's become the face of everything some fans feel went wrong here, fairly or unfairly, but one thing is clear. This remake has changed the rules of the game, proving that brand recognition alone can't shield a film from harsh reality when it loses sight of the story that made it a classic in the first place.